Good afternoon and welcome. This is 12 and a half minutes brought to you by Elevator, one of Scotland's leading entrepreneurial business and support organisations. My name is Andy Campbell, and each week I get to speak to some of the world's most inspiring people. On this programme, we go out live on YouTube, Facebook and LinkedIn every Friday at 3 p.m. So at Elevator, we always encourage businesses to start up and grow. And if they're a local business, we might encourage them to think about going from local to national. If they're a national business, we might encourage them to look at an expansion from national to international. And the truth is that today we live and operate in a truly global marketplace. Businesses that you start up today can instantaneously reach a global audience and marketplace. So for those companies that are looking to explore, there's lots of different alternatives, lots of different opportunities that you might want to consider, but it can open up a whole world of opportunity for you. So that's why I'm delighted to explore the global connections today. And joining us today is a global connector, an ambassador for the Scottish Business Network, and joining us live from Washington, DC, a very warm welcome to Ian Houston. Ian.
Lovely to be with you, Andy. I'm delighted to be here with you and your audience. I appreciate your opening there. Elevator is just doing such wonderful things. So thank you to the team and what you're providing in these difficult times.
Yeah, well, good morning, Ian, and thank you so much indeed for those very kind and warm words. And I know, Ian, you came onto our radar through LinkedIn because we have seen so much support, so much encouragement, and so much wisdom, help and advice for Scottish and UK businesses looking to explore. And I certainly know that Scotland has got a very special place in your heart, Ian. So I'd like to hand over to you now, if I may, to give us a 2 or 3 minute overview, a bit about your background, a bit of your story to date, and ultimately your role today. So over to you, Ian.
Well, thank you, Andy. I think as I've grown older, I feel that my story is a lot like everyone else. I've had ups and downs and twists and turns, joys and challenges. And so in that sense, connecting to you and your audiences, we share so much in common, and yet my story is my own. I suppose I'll start with my father, born and raised in Glasgow, graduated from the University of Strathclyde, whose tie I'm actually wearing, Andy. And Mom is from Leamington Spa. The two of them eventually made it to the San Francisco Bay Area about 30 years old, and that's where I grew up. So I'm a kid of the Bay Area, a really entrepreneurial spirit, of course, in Silicon Valley, and that influenced me quite a bit going forward. Eventually, through my university training in politics and international relations, I made it out to Washington, D.C. I've had the opportunity to experience some unique situations, being in politics in the diplomatic arena, representing organizations, the international development, humanitarian organizations, advocating for the poor, and serving as the executive director of the American Foreign Service Association for many years. Now, as you mentioned, I'm the privileged to serve as the ambassador for the Scottish Business Network here in Washington, and serve on boards as well. And yes, I am passionate about Scotland because I care deeply about the Scottish economy, the opportunities that exist for a very entrepreneurial workforce. And I'm passionate in helping and serving people, and that's been a thread that has existed throughout my career. So as I say, we all share a lot in common. And I'm focused on the international realm. That's been really the hallmark of my career. But I am increasingly focused on the interhuman connections that we all have. Whatever country that we are from, we share much in common in terms of our journey.
Excellent. Thanks, Ian. And I didn't realise, as we were speaking earlier before we came on live, I didn't realise that was your father's tie that you had on,
Yeah.
Ian. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you're delighted to have that on display today, Ian. So thank you so much. So Ian, we're obviously going to talk about the Scottish connection, and we're going to talk a bit about the internationalisation opportunities that exist for Scottish companies. Big markets to explore, lots of right ways to do it, lots of potentially wrong ways to do it. But obviously you're based in Washington, DC, and you've been very involved in Congress. So it'd be good to just get a little insight into some of the political activity that you've had working with policymakers in Washington, DC, and just to get a wee feel for how that is at this current moment, Ian.
Sure. I would say for your audience, just so they know, that there is a Friends of Scotland caucus that exists in the House of Representatives and the Congress. And so there is a lot of bipartisan support for engagement with Scotland for a variety of reasons. What I'm trying to do is deepen the conversation there in Congress to take it beyond the romantic side of engagement with Scotland, which is fine. And by that, I mean the castles, the history, that's a wonderful aspect and element of Scotland. And yet there's a modern progressive economy with a great solid workforce that exists. So within Congress, there's Friends of Scotland caucus that is there to provide support, and we're trying to deepen our engagement with them. Overall, the atmosphere in Congress, as you will know, is a challenging time of real divisions that exist there that didn't exist when I was there. There was a lot of, in my engagement with the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, a lot of bipartisan support between some really spectacular members of the Senate. Senator Richard Lugar, the late Senator Richard Lugar, Senator Joe Biden at the time, Senator Barack Obama, Senator Kerry, all of them served on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, and they were able to achieve a lot and to do it in a very bipartisan way. In terms, Andy, of the atmosphere right now, I think it would behoove all of us to advocate for greater cross-party alliances on international engagement. That certainly would be helpful to the UK.
Yep.
And it definitely would be helpful to Scotland as we try to focus the Friends of Scotland caucus on how they can help Scotland and how Scotland can help the United States.
Yeah, no, that's really fascinating to know, Ian, and I guess you see the potential in Scotland. You've got very strong Scottish roots and connections, and you see great opportunity for Scottish companies to explore internationalisation and explore the American marketplace in particular, Ian. So it'd be good to just kind of dig into that. Tell us what you see from someone over in Washington, DC with a connection to Scotland. What's your view of Scotland and in particular business and industry, Ian?
Well, Scotland is a trading nation, and Ivan McKee, who is the trade minister, has emphasized that. He has a great team who has written a report. I encourage your readers to pull up Scotland Trading Nation to actually read it. The engagement with the United States, while data is kept more specifically for UK-US engagement, Scotland in 2017 was trading at about 5.5 billion pounds. So it's a significant relationship, but it's not just a one-way street. It's US engagement with Scotland, which has a rich and deep tradition. As you know, Andy, you've been engaging on these issues for years. From my standpoint here in Washington, Scotland has within the British Embassy a terrific team of individuals who represent Scotland and represent the Scottish government within the British Embassy and do a great job with a cultural engagement, with economic engagement, etc., with a large diaspora of Scottish Americans who are interested in Scotland. I think what the various organizations can do, Scottish Business Network, Scottish Development International, which again, if your audience doesn't know about, SDI, terrific organization, what they're doing and how they're promoting Scotland within the United States. Scottish Enterprise, of course, is doing wonderful work. It's really important for all of us at this critical moment including the government, but these private sector membership organizations to come together and not be competitive, but cooperative and collaborate to really bring attention to Scotland beyond this side of simply visiting Scotland, which is great. I encourage that, as you see from my post.
Yeah.
But it's economic engagement, it's university engagement, it's partnerships between research institutions, University of Glasgow and others in Edinburgh and St Andrews and Stirling and University of the Highlands and Islands. They're just all over universities that are doing research. So it's up to the organizations, Scottish Business Network being one, to create a collaborative atmosphere. To your specific point, yes, it is such a ripe economic opportunity right now for Scottish organizations to engage in the US and not to be intimidated by that, but to be motivated by it.
And just on that particular point, Ian, because ultimately, that transition, that exploration that you would need to undertake to open up a new market is not a simple one. It's not taken as read that it's going to be doors open when you try to do that. There are challenges and pitfalls. What are perhaps some of those pitfalls, and what can companies do to improve their opportunities within an American marketplace, Ian?
And again, Andy, you have great experience with this. So as I said, I look forward to doing an interview with you and I can ask you some of the questions. But there are many pitfalls. There are pitfalls that are unique to geographic areas. If a company is wishing to penetrate the New York market, that's a challenging thing to do. There are many opportunities that exist there, but there are lots of layers of bureaucracy and it's a very competitive market. One of my colleagues up there, Fraser Greer, who's an ambassador for the Business Network, is such a huge system of support in New York for Scotland, and yet it's a challenging market. So there are pitfalls geographically. I think there are legal pitfalls. There are pitfalls related to obtaining visas. There are pitfalls related to tax issues, opening offices in various regions. Those are challenges. But the opportunities exist, I would say, in areas, yes, New York is always an opportunity, and I encourage people to engage with New York. But think about other markets such as St. Louis, Missouri, Denver, Colorado, Salt Lake City, Utah, Portland, Oregon. There are so many opportunities that exist that are strong entrepreneurial markets, and yet they don't have the draw on the pull of larger markets that come with the more competitive landscape. So I really encourage companies who may be listening in to make engagements with cities that may not be on the radar, but also have the attributes of a desire to engage with the UK or Scotland. And there are so many examples of that, Andy, of companies that from Wichita, Kansas, an engagement in AirShare. And so there are companies all over the place. I would just say, yes, a broader statement of encouragement to engage with those smaller markets because they're anxious to create partnerships to help their cities and to help their own economies locally.
Yeah, and I guess obviously America as a whole, if you're a UK or Scottish company looking to attack America, if you treat it as a whole, that might be the undoing of you. But if you take a more strategic, focused approach to your penetration into American marketplace, it might just pay off better dividends for you, I guess, in the long run.
Exactly.
Ian.
That's absolutely right. And as I say, that I'm here. I'm here as a resource for your listeners, for you and your team, but I'm here to be of support. I can provide contacts for you, but I can also be a validator, a third-party validator to a business from Scotland, which I'm often doing, to say, here's a company, you should take a look at them. And then so it's not the company themselves doing the pitch, it's me as a validator having the experience that I have to say, look at this company. And then bridge those connections so that creates a platform for that organization. So that I'm here to do that. And that's what the Scottish Business Network is really designed to do. We have another great ambassador in Atlanta who is providing similar services. Being in Washington, it's hot though.
Yeah, and that's a fantastic, offer, Ian, I guess, from any companies that are looking to explore the American marketplace. Clearly, we've got Scottish Development International that many companies will be familiar with. Certainly, Elevator work very closely with SDI, but to work with the likes of yourself or Russell Douglas at Scottish Business Network, or anyone else within that bridging community, it's great to have such a very warm offer of support and assistance. We'll try to make sure that we get your LinkedIn details out there and shared, Ian, so hopefully you can make some very useful contacts. As you probably heard there, my alarm went off at the end of 12.5 minutes.
Yes.
And we were talking again earlier on, Ian, about how quickly our years go by at a certain age, but how quickly 12.5 minutes go by. But I think just to finish off, Ian, I would really encourage anyone that's watching that's looking to take an interest in the American marketplace to reach out and contact the likes of Ian and some of his other colleagues and associates, and start to explore a very pragmatic and sensible approach. But you will find very warm, welcoming and helpful people on the other side of the pond. And Ian, thank you so much indeed for your time this morning. Thank you.
It's been a delight, and thank you again to your team and everything the Elevator is doing.
Much appreciated, Ian. Thank you. So that was Ian Houston joining us this morning, his time, this afternoon, our time, from Washington, D.C. And clearly at Elevator, we see a lot of companies who are looking to explore international marketplaces. So if America is on your horizon and you'd like to explore that more, certainly Ian and some of the organizations that we've mentioned are able to help. So thanks very much once again, Ian. So next week, let's talk about next week, because we're going to do something slightly different at 12.5 minutes. Each week I get to spend 12.5 minutes in the company of such amazing people, and some of the folk that we've interviewed over the last 15 or so weeks have been really inspiring and really motivating, and a whole lot of insight, inspiration and information has been gleaned from them. But at Elevator, we work with lots of startup businesses, lots of growing businesses. And really, to be quite honest, those companies are the stars of the show. We watch in admiration as they come through our accelerator programs or come through our business gateway support programs, and they start off with perhaps even no more than an idea. And we watch them take on the learning, take on the encouragement, take on the network support access that we provide to them. And we watch them shine, we watch them grow, and we watch them really blossom as businesses. And that's why we do what we do, because we are motivated, enthused, and encouraged by everything that they achieve. And that's our sole existence, to support these founders. So we thought we would do something different and shine the spotlight on them for the next few weeks. So there'll be a change of scene for us all. My colleague, Kat Ward at Elevator, will be taking on the 12.5 minute hot seat from next week. And she will be spending 12.5 minutes in the company of some of our founders that have gone through the program. So next week, we have Lee Midlane from IT Central. So we're looking forward to welcoming Lee along. And Lee was on one of our accelerator programs up in Murray in Highlands and Islands. And Lee went on a fantastic journey with the business and has a very bright future ahead of her. So make sure you tune in next week, Friday at 3 p.m. on LinkedIn, YouTube or Facebook to hear all about Lee and to hear Kat as well. So I hope you enjoy the next 5 or so weeks that we've got lined up for the Founders Spotlight. But in the meantime, have a wonderful weekend and be brave.